All right, it's 6 o'clock. And welcome to the regular board meeting, Untitled School District number 22. And we will open with the pledge of allegiance. Everybody stand. Mr. Kingston, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Superintendent. I am committed to serve all jobs, skills, and intelligence that exists in all children in need.
I believe all children are capable of success, no exceptions.
All sides. All right. Give us a roll call.
Mark Cleveland,
Here.
Steve Corrigan,
Here.
Tim Hazen,
Here.
Bill Doherty,
Here.
James Gray,
Here.
Paul President.
Thank you. We're going to move on to the approval of the agenda, number D. Do we have any questions? Or does anyone want to make the motion?
I move we approve the agenda.
Okay, we've got Ms. Casey, we have a motion, do we have a second? All second. All right. James Gray, any a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All against? Motion passes. Number 2, consent agenda items. Number A, approval of the action on consent items. Do we have any discussion on that, or will someone make a motion? All right. Mr. Downey has made a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Casey, you did a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All against? Motion passes. Now we move into 3, information discussion items. Superintendent's.
So this is what we probably did our last board meeting just 2 weeks ago. So there's no school on Monday for Memorial Day. 8:30 was scheduled with drive-through events that will be held on Wednesday, June 2nd, from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Special thank you to the Arizona Rangers and now company for Arizona City Elementary School security. A special thank you to Illinois Police Department and Illinois Fire Department for Toltec Elementary School security and support. The last day for students is Thursday, June 3rd, which is the minimum day. Toltec Elementary School is dismissed at 11:30, and Arizona City Elementary School is dismissed at 12:30. The last day for teachers is Friday, June 4th. Summer school begins the following Monday after the last day of school and continues through the end of June, so from June 7th to June 30th. In-person instruction is the only option. And classes will be capped at 17 students per grade level to accommodate 3 feet distancing. And enrollment is on a first-come, first-served basis, tracked by a survey that will be filled out when enrolling for summer school. Summer meals are currently being planned to be offered for picked up by our families for students right here at Toltec Elementary School on Monday through Thursday, 29th of June. Removal of parking is going to begin at Toltec Elementary School site in the next few days. We have received 3 bids for the removal of the asbestos, so we can move forward with this task in building D as immediately as possible. It's our goal to complete the preliminary TPS completely before our students and teachers return in July, and we will be working on a very tight timeline. If the work is completed before summer break is over, then work will begin at ACES campus. This is a district-wide project that's going to continue through next school year during the 3 2-week breaks. We are hiring as many of our employees as possible at $15 an hour to work on this huge task. And carpet removal, district-wide, will greatly improve our air quality within our buildings and classrooms. Mrs. Ferguson ordered 2 John Deere utility vehicles, which we received on Thursday afternoon for our maintenance and custodial crews at each school. So we have 1 per school, and our employees are thrilled because they've been using old golf carts that broke down frequently, and they're not deciding to handle the work that they needed them for. So it's very important we do what we can with curriculum. We are just now getting caught up with this adoption tonight science curriculum. But for the last 4 years, we've adopted curriculum every single year. It's important for our teachers to be able to have the tools that they need for successful learning within the classroom. And so it's important to provide all of our employees with the tools they need to be successful in their area of employment and responsibility. With the recent registration in I'm sorry, let me get this out. Keep digging the microphone with it, and I can't get close enough. With the recent resignation of Arizona City Elementary Principal Judy Winsberg, we are actively seeking to hire a replacement who is experienced and competent. The deadline for applying is Friday, June 11th at 5:00 p.m. An interview committee will be interviewing all applicants the week of June 14th. The June TSD Board Meeting will be held in the district office boardroom. Thank you.
Information discussion items B, years of service recognitions.
We started years of service recognition a couple of years ago. We missed last year because of COVID. So we have our 10 years, it sounds like I'm saying 10 year recognition. And then right in the middle, we've got 12 years and 15 years and 20 years. So for 10 years, I'd like to invite Elaine to come up. She was hired in 2011. Is Elaine here? Okay. We're thankful to Elaine for 10 years of service. Cheryl Townsend, are you here? There you are. Cheryl's been at both schools. Cheryl's been at both schools and the district office during her 10 years. She makes it around. That's girls that get around girl. So here is a token of our appreciation for your 10 years of service. Thank you, Cheryl. Yes. Kimberly Benetton, come on down. We want to recognize you for 10 years of service. I believe all 10 years have been spent as a preschool teacher, yes, within the district. Thank you, Kim. Julie Coda.
Julie has had 10 years.
Julie has had 10. Isn't it amazing what he's a boss that can keep from coming through? She's had 10 years with the district, mostly in second grade, but recently moved to third grade. Oh, all in second. I stand corrected. Thank you, Julie. Kenneth from Baker.
I'm not sure what any of us would do without KG keeping us going technology-wise. So thank you, KG, and your team. Robert Buffet asked to be excused tonight. So Flavia Avila, are you here? Okay. Luz, yeah, Zende, yeah, Luz, Zende House. Yay. Okay. Misty Hoffman. We're grateful to Misty for 12 years of service here at Toltec District, and you've been in both schools, and she's done the teaching and coaching and principal, so she's a good around gal also. And her sister is responsible for design. Yes, helping Narda with the design and coming over with the polo shirts that we're wearing also. So she's talented. Daniel Goodell. Daniel was first hired as a reading coach. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's correct, and he's back as a reading specialist, but he has a crew to get some stuff done. So he's been instrumental in the field of reading for our district for these 12 years that you've given to Toltec. We thank you for that. Anna Lopez. Anna Lopez has 15 years of service to Toltec District. Another round of applause. Tambra Sider. 15 years of service within Toltec District, and you're a get-around gal also. You had spent a couple years at the Cambridge online, and so you were at the middle school and all around, so we thank you for 15 years. Jennifer Teleja. Jennifer has spent, well, we were in the English language program first, and have been at both school sites also, and then has spent the last few years in the junior high area, English language arts. So we thank you for your 15 years. And Jennifer has decided to move on to the high school level, which has been a goal of hers for a while. So we are also losing her, but we thank you for the 15 years that you gave us. Beth Pulver. Years. Thank you for that. And so Beth then taught second grade, kindergarten, and she's gonna cry. She's a good around girl too. Thank you for 20 years. Beth is retiring. That's why it's difficult. Would you like to say something? Employee tenure, TENURE, is very important to me. And I value when employees choose to stay with us. So thank you for your years. Greatly appreciated. And if you were planning on spending the evening here, if you have better plans, you can be excused.
Move on to number 5, action items. A, the science curriculum adoption.
Our science curriculum adoption committee was led by Dorothy Lamb, who is our ACES capacity coach. Can you raise your hand, Dorothy? And their students. And Dory Bosley, a TES grade 6 teacher. Raise your hand and stand up. There she is. She's little. You can't see her. Mondo Cardenas, you know, I think it's his birthday today. What an excuse to not be here. A TES 7th and 8th grade science teacher, Lisa Casalata. Are you here? Casalata? No. Rich Casalata, ACES 6th, 7th, and 8th science teacher. And then Amber Hendricks. There's Amber, ACES special education teacher. Karen Robella. Okay, so there's a couple of members of the committee that are not here tonight, but we do have a pretty good representation.
First, I really like to point out how important it is when you're getting curriculum to set up certain, excuse me, sorry. First thing you want to do is come up with the non-negotiables, the thing that your district needs and that you are not willing to live without. And of course, the first thing that we looked at, the review and adoption process determines the instructional materials eligible for adoption by the Toltec School District. And one of the most important things to us was that it would align with the standards and we would be able to move our students through the standards quickly in order for them to pass the assessment for science that's coming down from the state of Arizona. We will probably, it hasn't been written in stone yet, but our students 4th grade all the way to 8th grade will probably be doing a science assessment next year that will be required by the state of Arizona. Because when you move from 3rd grade to 4th grade, you move from learning how to read to now you're reading for information. So they want the children to be able to read for information, locate information within the text, be able to do a hypothesis and all of the things that go along with the standards of science. They're expecting them to know that knowledge. The materials that we have right now in place are not going to allow our students to be successful. There are too many holes in the materials. They are not dealing with all the standards that the kids are going to need to know. And our teachers are having to do what's called piecemeal, but like put different stuff together in order for the kids to be somewhat successful. But with the curriculum that we have in place right now,
Ms. Lamb, the board is well aware that the curriculum that we got was just a placekeeper till we could get the curriculum. It's been very important to the board to get the tools that the teachers need. So yes, we just had to do it each year in order to be affordable.
yes, definitely, we appreciate it. They are very excited to get science curriculum.
And these were our committee members that Sharon introduced. We looked at several different curriculums, the top 3 that were going to provide the things that we needed for our district, that we were sure were going to cover all of the components that our kids were going to need to be successful. The top 3 were McGraw-Hill, Inspire Science, Pearson, Elevate Science, and Hardcore Science. We sent out provider letters to several different curriculums. Once we sent out the provider letters in January, their job was to send us proposals on how they could help us to get the curriculum that we need. We received proposals and presentations from 2 different curriculums. We received them from McGraw-Hill and Pearson. So we watched, they presented to us, and then we looked at all of their material. It's very important Arizona's science standards align with the Common Core standards, which is very nice for us because all of the science curriculum is Common Core. The 3 things they're going to be learning, they start in kindergarten and it grows as they go all the way up to 8th grade. It just gets harder and the learning gets a little bit more difficult. They start to analyze and create things as they get in the older grades. They're going to do physical science, earth science, and life science. This just gives you an idea. It tells you we do the physical life and the earth science, and then it just kind of tells you how it grows on itself as they go through the grade levels. These are the things that our students will be learning. In kindergarten, students use their sense to help them make observations about the world around them. They recognize patterns in the structures and functions of living and non-living things. In 1st grade, they're going to have an understanding of causal relationships as they investigate how objects can impact other objects from a distance or by contact with each other. They're going to develop sense thinking as they investigate. This is what's really important. We want our students to investigate. So one of the main things we want is hands-on materials. I promised my teachers I would mention them. And 2nd grade students develop an understanding of systems and how models and energy and matter works, properties, about the role of the wind and the water. This is your earth science. And then in 3rd grade, they're going to learn about how models, along with the structure and function involving energy and matter, how energy changes things. And then we have the biosphere and the geosphere in the 4th grade. And 5th grade, they get into the genetic information and movement between the Earth and the Moon. Now I'm going to have Rich come up and explain to you what they're going to be learning in 6th through 8th grade.
Thank you. For middle school science, it's a little different because when we talk about middle school science, we're talking about hands-on learning at this stage. So when we talk about 6th grade, students apply their understanding by the concept of matter and the flow of energy, and as it scales to molecules and sources and ecosystems. And again, most of these are actually hands-on. We talk about science curriculum, especially this one that is being proposed. A lot of hands-on activities actually come with the greatest curriculum for these middle school grade levels. For 7th grade, students will investigate the relationship between forces that changes in motion, how energy transfers impact geologic and atmospheric processes, and the structure and function of cells. And finally, for 8th grade, students will describe how cause and effect interact with stability and change to influence the natural world. All of these standards, when it comes to middle school science, 6th, 7th, and 8th, you really have to be able to test hypotheses, be able to work with experiments, and actually do real-life hands-on activities for which this group that has been selected will provide us at this level. And last but not least, this curriculum actually gives us, or basically we have a responsibility for our students to be able to be successful in high school. In high school science, that is pretty much a requirement for them to do hands-on activities. Right now, with what we have, we were falling short on that, especially this year because of COVID and all the restrictions that we have.
This new curriculum can actually help us if, for example, we have to possibly, hopefully, we have already this again, but if we do have to, we'll be able to do them online labs. And actually give us the hands-on activities to do this as well as the in-person, in-class manipulatives. Second, students need to be prepared to take the science assessment. Our science assessment, we're hoping that we can really increase our scores with this curriculum and be able to take our students to the next level. And third, finally, and last but not least, our teachers and students deserve the tools they need to be successful. Our students are awesome. They're great. They work really hard this year. They are outstanding. They try to meet the goals that we set for them. We just need to be able to give them the resources to go through it. And that's the end of my presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, but let me show them. The staff, parents, and community members were given an opportunity to review this curriculum, and they completed a review survey to let us know which one that they liked. Here are our survey results. On question number 1, McGraw-Hill. Question number 2, this one Pearson took. They took 2 of them, and McGraw-Hill took the rest. Question number 3, McGraw-Hill took. On question number 4, McGraw-Hill. Question number 5, McGraw-Hill. Question number 6, McGraw-Hill. Question number 7, McGraw-Hill. So we only had 2 that Pearson took, question number 2 and question number 7. So Pearson did win by a landslide. Most of the staff do like McGraw-Hill. One of the things they like the most about it is the teacher gets a demonstration kit. So you start with a demonstration kit that the teacher actually uses, and they model for the students. I'm a coach, so I know how important it is for us to model for our students. So they model first, and then after they do the modeling and that direct instruction, then the kids get their own individual kit in groups to go and do the experiment on their own. And it's discovery learning. I just love discovery learning. So our winner was McGraw-Hill Inspired Science. And we would like to thank you for taking the time to review our presentation. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you. I do want to reiterate that it is the goal of the board to adopt the curriculum that we needed. It was my choice. I saved science for last because I wanted to give our curriculum writers a chance to catch up with the standards that were being written. So that's why science was saved for last. But we have adopted curriculum every single year. Now, the grand total for this is, this provides just the basics, basically. And then for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, it provides science kits. And so the grand total is $200,758.87. The curriculum is not cheap. That's why it's taken us every year. We have still a lot of catching up to do. So it costs a lot of money with catching up with curriculum, writing curriculum for our teachers and students, and also for upgrades in our facilities. And so these are some of the areas of neglect for several years. Our director of finance, he did attempt to obtain a price reduction, but they've done as much as they can. They're providing several things for us free, such as the teacher additions and things like that. So we don't get a price deduction. And I said, Tim, you're going the wrong direction. But they forgot to add the taxes onto one of the quotes. So it'll be a little bit more than this $758,000. But
I can give you the exact number if you'd like.
Go ahead, yes.
$207,387.97. So it's about $7,000 more.
Goodness gracious,
And-
7,000 more.
I do want to give a little shout out to the team, and Nicole Hall helped with this tremendously in getting this quote to us. So I do want to say thank you for that.
Yes, thank you, Nicole, and Nicole wasn't feeling well now either, so let's give her a hand for her help. So tonight, we're just looking for your approval of this science curriculum. We will be paying as much as we can in this fiscal year, which isn't very much. How much is it, Mr. McCain? It's that we're paying.
So we have about $45,000 that we are going to be able to utilize for this fiscal year, and the remainder will come out of fiscal year 22.
So he's working with the company to get that money to them, but we can start with 45,000. So come July, we can afford to pay more.
Anybody have any questions? Do I
Just wanted to thank that committee. I think they did a really good presentation. My expertise is in curriculum, so I appreciate the information. And is this a standard? Is this like the average price for these curriculums?
Yes, yes it is. The only reason we got off last year with less, paying less, was because we got the full deal for our junior high for social studies, but we didn't go all, so that's the only reason it was a lot less last year.
All right, I just wanted to comment again. It seemed like the committee was pretty enthused about this curriculum too.
It's been a long time.
I'm just curious about the down payment and how we're going to pay the rest of it. That's it.
So I can speak to that really quickly. So there's some expenses out of our unrestricted capital that we will not have to make next year that we made this year. So we are utilizing COVID relief funds to be able to replace student laptops. We already used some of that to replace iPads that we needed while we were in the shutdown, and also for teacher devices that they'll be needing going forward. So those will no longer come out of unrestricted capital, which frees up unrestricted capital to make a purchase like the curriculum for this next year.
Thank you.
It's supposed to be updated every 6 years. So when we get this kind of quote, this is a 6-year quote. I don't know if in 6 years we're going to be able to do 1, 2, 3, 4, but we'll do our best to make it not, let's say, 20 years before we update curriculum.
Absolutely. I'd like to motion to approve the science curriculum.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Casey made a motion, and Mr. Dougherty made a second. All in favor of adopting the McGraw-Hill science curriculum, say aye. Aye. All against? Motion passes.
Thank you, curriculum committee.
Thank you so much. That was very good. We appreciate you spending your time on it and giving us the information that we needed. I know science is something that we sorely need. So thank you again for putting your time in and effort and picking something that you know you like. That's what I like to see. Moving on to action item B, auditing services.
You want to take this one, Tim?
So we have utilized Dobridge and Company for the last 5 years for our audits. They have done a fantastic job of helping us really not only do the audit, but navigate through getting us back in compliance and getting us in a good situation. And so our 5-year contract with them was up, so we did issue a request for proposals. And so we sent that out for another 5-year contract. We sent that out on May 3rd, and they were due back on May 20th, 2021 by 2 p.m. We did receive one proposal from Dobridge and Company. We also received a few other no bids responses, which is pretty typical when you send out a request for proposal. You'll have places that they can't accommodate more business, so they don't bid it. And Dobridge did give us a proposal. It is very favorable to us. In the previous 5-year contract, we were paying $49,500 a year. And part of that was due to the fact that we were in a rough situation 5 years ago. But they have been able to bring those fees down to starting at $21,500 for fiscal year 21 and 22, moving up to $22,000 for fiscal year 23, and then $22,500 for fiscal year 24 and 25. Like I said, we did receive the one proposal, so this is the proposal before you to approve their contract for the audit services. And at that point, we will move on to sending it to the Auditor General. They have the final approval of that contract.
So it pays to be fiscally compliant because we're saving almost $30,000. So it's a lot of work, but we've made so many improvements. We're seeing a lot of benefits. This is one of them. The government does reimburse us for audit expenses. So when we spent $49,500, that money goes back into our budget the following year. So this is actually really beneficial for us for this year because we will spend $21,500 and they're going to give us the $49,500 from last year into this next year's budget, into this coming year's budget.
It was a lot of the savings, was that due to the infrastructure that are laid down over the last 5 years?
So part of that would be, yes, that they've already gotten familiar with our procedures, our processes, how we do things. But the other part of it is that we are now in compliance with the Auditor General, which we were not previously. They told us, I believe it was 57 different findings that first year that they took over, and we're down now to 20. So we've made considerable improvement in our audit.
Any other questions? If not, we have a motion for the auditing services, Dobridge Company.
I motion we approve the auditing services of Dobridge and Company.
All right, Mr. Case, there's been a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Mr. Gray has seconded. All in favor of Dobridge Company being our auditing service, say aye. Aye. All against? Motion passes. Moving on, action item C, 21-22 trust proposal acceptance.
Tim and I sat down in a meeting with our representative from the trust, and we are unbelievable. Well, I was very happy, very pleased that even though our unemployment was up by 300%, we're going to be paying for insurance close to what we were paying last year. I mean, it's about $3,600 more, but we're happy with that considering the rise in unemployment costs.
Anybody have any questions? So this is from July 1st to June 2022, correct?
Yes, this is for the next fiscal
Next
year.
fiscal year.
Yes.
So do I have a motion? 21-22 trust proposal acceptance.
Motion to accept the 2021 trust.
All right, Mr. Patrick made a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Casey made a second. All in favor of the trust proposal acceptance, say aye. Aye. All against? Motion passes. Now we move on to D, action item. Director of Special Education.
I'd like to invite Mr. Larkin Smith to come to the podium, just in case the board has any questions for you. The Special Education Director Interview Committee was myself and TES Principal Misty Huffman, ACES Principal Judy Winsmer, TES Special Education Teacher Frank Carney, and ACES Special Education Preschool Teacher and Lead Kim Benetall. We had 6 applicants, all were interviewed for the position. Mr. Ryan Larkin Smith was the committee's first choice, and he received the highest score by far on our interview rubric. And Mr. Ryan Larkin Smith brings a wealth of knowledge and experience that will greatly benefit our district and the special education department. So he brings to us his expertise, and that's what we need in special education. Mrs. Pulver would agree with that. He's offered to come in tomorrow and work on a complaint that came forward to the state. So we're grateful. If you approve him tonight, he will already be in helping us out this week, and then we'll let him have a vacation until July 1st. But do you have any questions for Mr. Larkin Smith?
Yes, I actually wanted him here today because I looked at your past and everything that you've done, and very much impressed me. And I wanted to make sure that you knew that how impressed I was with that, and the fact that you said something about and all of a sudden you're going to jump in and if we do approve you today, jump in and just both feed the fire because we do have an issue at hand that we need to be taken care of. But there was one other thing I wanted to talk to you about. It's coming up next, but I think maybe talking to you at this moment, you were talking about the school psychology services. Now, we voted on it this last time. We're going to vote on it again. And I know I'm getting off the point here a little bit, but after we vote on you, could we ask you questions about the school psychology?
Absolutely.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Anybody have any other questions? Because I'm going to keep asking questions here.
No, I just was impressed here with this convention.
Thank you.
Thank you for choosing us.
Yes.
We were like, it's a very humbling to see someone with your credentials coming to a school. So I'm not saying our school is nothing. I am saying that it's small and I didn't expect you to go to maybe a larger school, higher pay. I'm not trying to talk about
My background is in special education, and so it's really where I feel most comfortable. I taught in large districts. I like the smaller, more intimate school districts. It's how I grew up. It's where I've always lived. So it's just a comfort thing.
very good. And I do appreciate it. I really do, because I feel the same way in smaller schools. People are closer, they're more close knit. Everybody knows pretty much everybody, and you can relax and get your job done without having to feel the stress of the day every day. So I understand where you're coming from on that. And that's all right. Any other questions?
I do want to say that I personally called Red Rock Superintendent Peter Dwyer. And I said, Peter, I want to ask you about Ryan. And he goes, Denise, Ryan has saved my butt so many times. That's what he said. So I wrote it down a little bit more professional, that he's out, that he said Ryan is outstanding and done remarkable work for their district when they needed expert assistance. So Peter spoke of him very highly. He said, I'm going to bring him to our superintendent meeting. So I'll have to watch out for that if I want to sell him to other superintendents.
That's right. Go to the highest bidder.
All right, anyone? Does anybody want to make a motion for the Director of Special Education to Ryan Martin Smith? Well, I'll make a motion for the Director of Special Education, Ryan Martin Smith. Does anybody second? Second. All right. Mark Lundgren has made a motion, and Mr. Casey has made a second. All in favor? Let's just say aye. Aye. All against? Motion passed.
Welcome to Toltec.
Absolutely.
In the next 3 days that you spend with us, Beth is going to take you around and introduce you to the teachers and things like that. So you look forward to that.
Okay, we are moving on to action item E, which you seem to have brought up the recommendation to go with the professional fees option instead of the lump sum. And I want to know why you've come up with that.
Well, first I want to say that I stepped out and asked for his advice just to make sure that we were doing the right thing. And so then he gave me his advice on that matter.
So my understanding is that the psychologist was offered a lump sum, X number of dollars, to basically write special education paperwork, a particular version of it, which is the evaluation piece. What I mentioned was that it doesn't require a psychologist to do that. Anybody can write, it's called the MET, interdisciplinary evaluation team paperwork. It doesn't require that a psych does that. And I've written several hundred of them myself, most of the time to get schools out of monitoring with the State Department. Excuse me. And it didn't strike me as a good use of money to lay that kind of money out for a school psychologist, because there's really only two things that a school psychologist is absolutely required to do in a district. And one of those is cognitive testing, which they are the only person that can do it. And those typically run, depending on who's doing it, anywhere from $500 to $1,000 per evaluation. The amount of time, thank you. The amount of time put into writing, and that typically runs, depending on how we're doing it, what tests they're using, will run anywhere from 3 to 7 hours to do that evaluation. To write the MET, which is the takes that data as one piece of the puzzle. There's also academic testing, there's also the from the general ed teacher, the principal, the parent, the student. All of that has to be put together into a MET. That takes typically another couple of hours. It doesn't make any sense to have a psychologist do all of that work, and oftentimes a psychologist doesn't need to do all of that. Somebody else can do that. Myself, I'm already on salary. I can do that. I can train people on campus to do that. We've talked about some other alternatives for how to do that at a much lower rate. A psychologist usually comes with $100 an hour-ish. teacher, even if it's somebody that you go out for, that can do all of this and bring it together and usually do a better job, will come in between 25 and 35 hours. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to put out 70% more on somebody that you don't need to do that.
Well, we didn't know that. Well, we do now.
You also referenced the law that changed, and that districts are sometimes doing too much testing. Would you reference that real quickly?
Absolutely. So when I started in the field in '95, the requirement was that every 3 years, special education students were fully reevaluated, which means a psychologist is going to do all of their stuff. In 1997, all of that changed with reauthorization of IDEA that time. And what they did is they took this process that the psychologist very much was in charge of, and they made it a lot more egalitarian. And they turned it into essentially, I can come up with words to say, a portfolio system, if you're familiar with that language. If you're not, it's a lot of early childhood teachers will use it. So kids will pull, in an elementary school setting, a portfolio is oftentimes used to really show the breadth of learning for a kid throughout the school year rather than having kind of a one-time test. And that was embraced in IDEA 1997, and then it was kind of ramped up on in 2004, which was the last time it was reauthorized. It's probably due for reauthorization, but I don't see them pulling back on that, simply because you used to walk into one of these meetings and the school psychologist would walk in with their mind already made up, saying, the kid's going to qualify, the kid's not going to qualify. There was a court case several years back in our circuit, the 9th Circuit, out of Hawaii, that turned that on its head, even in addition to IDEA reauthorizations. A general education teacher disagreed with the psychologist's perspective. The psych said, well, the numbers don't match up. The kid doesn't qualify. The teacher, who has a kid every day, all day long, said, I disagree. And she put it in right here. She put it in right here. And the parents pushed back, and it went all the way to the 9th Circuit, which is as high as it goes in our area. And the court sided with the teacher over the psychologist. So that really just reinforced that idea that the psychologist, yes, and I'm not putting them down, they have their place, they have important work that they need to do for us. But they're not it. They're not the only ones in that meeting. And prior to '97, they basically were. If you disagree, tough nuggets. That's your problem. Now it's really become a much more, as I said, egalitarian kind of approach and process where anybody in that room can disagree, and if they have good reason, it kind of has to stop the process. And you have to prove why that's the case or why that isn't the case. So that was the basis for my argument for saying maybe we should look at this, at the numbers, look at what you've got. How many evaluations do you really need to do? Most of the time, the last cycle eval is fine for eligibility. We don't have to redo those every 3 years. We can look at them as a team and say, you know what? That still looks like this kid, and we can move on without ever bringing a psychologist into things.
Excellent. Thank you for that explanation.
Absolutely.
Good information.
This is stuff that you know that obviously we as a board don't have privy to. I'm glad you do have all that information. That you can bring us up to speed.
Absolutely. Happy to do it.
Very good. Very good. Anybody else have any questions? He answered it very well for me. Yes.
Thank you so much.
So in conclusion, do we have a motion for the 21-22 school psychology services? Do we are going to approve the option 1, the duties of the school psychologist for 21-22 school year?
I'll motion to approve the option 1 of the 2021-2022 school psychology service.
Very good. Mr. Casey has been motioned. Do I have a second? I'll second. All right. Mr. Dowdy has made a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All against? Motion passes. We move on to action item F. Is it employee salary schedule revision?
When we were interviewing the special education candidates, director candidates, realized that our salary schedule was mistakenly had them at 280 days, and you did 216 because they do provide training on professional development Fridays. So this is the only revision in this salary schedule.
Next.
Yes. It is important that they have the same number of days as the principals and vice principals because they do train the teachers.
It's pretty self-explanatory. Does anybody have a question? All right. Do I have a motion to implement salary schedule revision?
I motion to approve the 2021-2022 exempt employee salary schedule revision.
All right, Mr. Casey has made a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. So we have Mr. Cartwright has made a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All against? Motion passes. We move on to the real important stuff, number 6. Next meeting date, Monday, June 14th, second Monday of the month.
If we could move it out to the last week of the month, Tim received some news that the budget was moving in legislation, but we don't know if it's moving to the turtle walk or a racehorse. So we
I'm not
don't
quite sure
know.
what they're doing in the state, so
So we're at the mercy of the state again.
we are still at the mercy of the state. We've not received budget documents, and they won't put those together until they adopt a budget. So we are still at their mercy at this point.
So if we were to schedule the meeting for June 14th, is a good chance that we'd have to schedule a second meeting. So if we push it out to the last week of June, maybe we could do all of this in one meeting.
Yeah, that makes more sense to me. So I'm good. I'm good with that.
Yes. So the last Monday in June is June 28th, but if that doesn't work, we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in the last week of June, 28th, 29th, and 30th. We do have to adopt a budget before the fiscal year begins on January 1st, July 1st. The year begins in January, does that make sense? July 1st.
Fiscal year.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, well, let's troubleshoot for that one the last Monday, and then we can go from there. Hopefully, the state makes a jump in the right direction and they give us the information we need here soon. Next one. All I need is someone to make a motion that we have adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, Mr. Casey made a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
No, Jim. Okay, so we have a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We're now adjourned.